Hey Alan, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Just a moment, let me
That's probably the best looking podcast background I've seen in a while, mate.
off.
Is that your home studio or
It's actually my office. I've got a separate podcast studio, but I'm just doing a few little renovations to it, so my office
yeah,
will have to do.
perfect, love it. And you're also color coordinated with the background, which is
That's
extra
it.
bonus points for that.
That's it. What do
Uh,
they say? Up the irons or whatever?
Up the irons, yes. I make a habit of wearing a different heavy metal t-shirt on
I'm
every
actually going
podcast
to
I do.
the Iron Maiden concert when it comes to Melbourne. Yeah, so
You got tickets to the gig this year in
I
I think
do.
it's in September.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
I do.
so do I. Should be good. I think they were supposed to tour about 3 years ago, but COVID happened and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
all
cool,
that
man.
stuff. Awesome, mate. Well, thanks for taking the time. Looking forward to today's chat. I did see on your LinkedIn you're also a bit of a pickleball fan.
Yeah, I mean, I tried it while I was in the United States, and
Yeah,
I went to a local club. Yeah, it was fun. It's fun.
yeah,
I go there from time to time now.
yeah. It's good fun. I mean, I grew up playing a multitude of sports, one of which was tennis, but I do like the fact that pickleball and paddle as well. It's just smaller and so much more fast
Yeah,
paced.
yeah,
Have you
it's
tried
fun.
the paddle courts down at South Wharf?
No,
No. So paddle's essentially pickleball fans might get upset at this uh,
yeah,
reference, but essentially to me, it seems like pickleball, except you got these glass walls. So the ball doesn't go out as often, kind of like indoor soccer in a way where the ball bounces off the glass and you can hit it back into play.
okay, that's cool.
So yeah, it's quite fun. So definitely worth
So
worth
it's called paddle, is it?
paddle. Yeah, Padel.
Yeah, okay.
It's all the rage in some countries. Like I was in Bali and of all places, like they have about 8 different paddle centers in on a little tiny island. So
Oh wow, okay.
yeah, yeah,
There you
all the
go.
expats love it.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, mate, we're not here to talk about pickleball and paddle. We're here to talk about lead marketing. And
Let's do it.
you did release a book a couple years ago called the One Page Marketing Plan, and that's done phenomenally well. I was looking on Amazon, like over 9,000 reviews. So
Yeah,
absolutely killed it. So
yeah.
congratulations on
Oh,
that.
thanks, man.
And when I think one page marketing plan, to me, that sounds pretty lean. But you've got a new book out called Lean Marketing. So the obvious question people who might have read your first book will ask is, how does this differ? How does lean marketing differ to the one page marketing plan?
Yeah, so one page marketing plan is really all about um, strategy. So getting your plan right, getting your strategy right, so that we have absolute clarity around what we're going to do in terms of our marketing.
Hmm.
And that's a great place to start. I think of it like the architect's blueprint. Lean marketing is all about implementation. Right now that we've got our plan, we've got our strategy. What are we going to do? How are we going to implement marketing that actually works in our business? So I see them really going hand in hand, although I wrote them to be standalone. So if you only read one of the books, you'll still get a lot of value. But that's how I thought of them as a series as well.
Yep, fantastic. And the one page marketing plan, from what I recall, it was essentially kind of like for listeners who are familiar with, say, the lean canvas or the business model canvas,
Yeah,
taking that approach but applying it to your marketing, as opposed to, say, what we see in a lot of large corporations where they still have 3 to 5 year marketing and communication strategies. It's really bringing that back to one page and effectively testing your assumptions quickly to figure out what works and what doesn't, and trying to avoid what you call the John Wanamaker rule, which is half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. I'm just not sure which half.
yeah, that's exactly right. Look, one of the things that I really wanted to do when I was working with clients was get them to put a plan together, because a plan gives you clarity, regardless of marketing or anything else, right? If we, excuse me, if we're going on a trip, like now I'm planning a 5 week trip overseas. So what am I doing? I'm planning it out. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be in this country at this time. Then I need to stay at this hotel. Then I'm going to be speaking at this event. So putting together a plan, because that way the trip will go really smoothly. If I just say, hey, I'll hop on a plane and I'll wing it as I go, well, maybe I might have success, maybe I might not. And same thing goes with our health. Same thing goes with almost anything we do in life. If we've got a plan, we've got a much higher level, a much higher likelihood of success. So that's what I wanted my clients to do with marketing. And I got a lot of pushback, too hard, don't know where to start, need to hire a consultant, all of this sort of stuff. And so that's why I put together the one-page marketing plan process, which was a process long before it was a book. So put together a simple canvas that someone could fill in 20, 30 minutes. And now we can have clarity around our marketing. We've got a roadmap, we've got a bit of a blueprint. And even if it's not perfect, it's something that it's only one page, something that we can easily update, something that we can add to at any time when we get better and more information. The other important part is we can easily share this. We can share this with our team. We can share this with our vendors so that they're all on the same page. I mean, if we gave them a 75-page marketing plan, well, they're probably not going to read it. They're probably not going to go through it. They're probably not going to really understand it. But if it's one page, it's like you're working with a web developer. Cool. Here's our one-page marketing plan. It tells you all about our target market, the messaging that really works, the kind of media we're using right now, all of that sort of thing. Now you're going to be that web developer's favorite client because they're spending all day trying to extract that out of clients, and people are saying stuff like, oh yeah, everyone's my target market, and don't have much clarity. So it's going to help you get a better result in many, many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And with respect to marketing nowadays, I've worked with a lot of startups over the years. I used to run a startup accelerator, and it's easy for startups to kind of hop, skip, and jump from one tactic to the other, right? They'll do ads, they'll do content marketing, they'll work on SEO, and ultimately they'll do something for like a couple months, something else for a few months, something else for a few months, and ultimately they're just not getting any results. So in your experience, Allan, like what are some of the reasons you're seeing for these, failed marketing efforts of, be they startups, be they large corporations, and so on?
Yeah, I call it random acts of marketing. And it is very easy to go down that trap of following bright, shiny objects. You see someone raving about some little tactic or webinars or SEO or some new pay-per-click network or whatever. And none of those things are bad. They're all things that we absolutely do use in our marketing infrastructure. But we want to know what's actually going to be the thing that moves the needle for us. What's something that's really going to plug into our whole marketing strategy? It's kind of like if we're building a house, we don't just start laying bricks randomly anywhere or whatever. We want a bit of a plan. We want to know, where's the lounge room going to be, where's the pool going to be, which way is the house going to face. We want to get those things to really line up and make sense, and then we dig the foundation, then we lay the bricks, then we do all of that sort of stuff. So similarly, and it's very seductive to get sucked into kind of following bright, shiny objects and new gurus got some new strategy or whatever. And like I said, none of those things are necessarily in themselves bad. It's just like we've got to figure out, okay, who are our people? Who's our target market? Where are they going to be? What's a message they're going to respond to? And then absolutely we can plug in the tactics that work for attracting them, for capturing them, for nurturing them, for moving them through to sale and upselling and getting referrals and all of that. But we want to be intentional about the marketing that we're doing, the marketing tactics that we're doing. We don't want to be just throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping that something sticks.
Yeah. And essentially it all starts with the market. And, we do see a lot of startups and entrepreneurs, they start with a product and then they kind of try and reverse engineer and find the market from there. And ultimately, when you identify the market first and what their needs are and how much they can spend and where they hang out online and challenges and what kind of messaging resonates with them, marketing becomes a lot more easier. But if you don't start with the market, then marketing essentially becomes really, really difficult. It's like crawling on glass. And I think it was a David Ogilvy that said good marketing makes bad products fail faster, which in my mind is a good thing. Because if your marketing is good, at least then you can determine that, okay, this product's probably not quite right. And we can learn from that, save money and make some changes.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, we want to make market-driven decisions, not necessarily product-driven decisions. So we're not, what a lot of people do is, hey, we've got this product, now let's go try and find a market to sell it to. And that's completely backwards. We want to figure out who are our people, who is our market, who are the people that we want to serve. And then seeing a gap that they've got or a struggle that they've got or something that they need to go from a worse place to a better place. That's marketing that will really work a lot better than, hey, we've got this widget or we've got this product, this this technology, and now we've got to find somebody to sell it to.
Absolutely. And one of the core sort of principles of lean marketing that you've outlined in the book is essentially integrating marketing across the organization.
Yeah.
Instead of having, say, a siloed marketing department, siloed sales, siloed
Yeah.
product, siloed customer service, integrating marketing into one function or essentially across the organization. Why is this so important?
Yeah, this is incredibly important because a lot of times someone will come up, the business will come up with a product or service or whatever. Then they'll spend a lot of time creating it and building it and all of this sort of stuff. And then finally it falls to the marketing department to figure out, okay, who do we sell this to? And if marketing is operating in a silo, we've got a few big, huge problems because then we're going to have that friction between the sales team and the marketing team. The sales team are like, hey, the leads suck. The marketing team's, hey, you can't close.
Yep.
The product development team might have created a product that no one really wants, or maybe is not priced correctly, or is really not something that someone's willing to pay a lot of money for. Then customer service team, customer service team, their ability to influence lifetime value and repurchases and churn and things like that is huge. So they're all marketing metrics, right? So we figure out what's a lifetime value. Well, that's going to be very much determined by how good the customer service is. If customer service can see opportunities to upsell, that's massive as well. That's going to increase our customer lifetime value, reducing churn, all of that. So if we've got marketing integrated all throughout the entire product life cycle, from product development right through to customer service and retention and all of that, we're going to have much, much better results than if we're just kind of, sprinkling some marketing pixie dust on top when we're trying to figure out where's a market that will actually buy our stuff.
Yeah, and it sounds like when you integrate marketing, you also have much shorter sort of feedback loops. You're able to learn from the customer much faster and integrate those learnings back into, your value chain. And the faster or the shorter your feedback loops are, the faster you learn and the faster you can make changes, and ultimately the faster you get to something that essentially works. And I had Scott H. Young on my podcast last week, and he wrote the book Ultra Learning. And more recently, Get Better at Anything. And this concept of short feedback loops is something he espoused when it comes to just learning in general.
Yeah.
And whether it's learning a new skill, or whether it's learning how to find product market fit, or which marketing strategies or tactics at a deeper level will work for you, it's really about getting that feedback loop really small. But if you have marketing and sales and customer support and product all running in silos, and it takes a month to get a meeting with someone from sales and a month to get a meeting from someone from customer, you're just not going to be learning anywhere near quick enough.
Yeah, and often I've found there's a huge disconnect in messaging between the sales team and the marketing team. The marketing team's got one message on the website in the ads and all of that, and then the sales team is saying something totally different to close. Customer service team may not even be aware of some of the promises that were made. So having those disconnects is extremely harmful to a business, extremely harmful to your marketing success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in the book, you do talk about the value of processes. And when it comes to integrating marketing across the organization, like if I'm say a company of 100 people, currently disparate functions, that initially sounds like it might be a lot of work to set up these processes, to create a good workflow to integrate marketing across the organization. I mean, at a high level, what are some things leaders might think about when it comes to doing that?
Yeah, so it has to come from business leadership, right? So it can't be something that if business leadership doesn't value the role of marketing, that's going to have a massively detrimental effect, and you're going to be pushing uphill. So most of the time in the market segment that we work, which is entrepreneurs who are maybe up to 20 million in revenue, they're the ones often driving marketing initiative, and so you generally don't have that problem. Even in larger companies, if the leadership is very much in the know when it comes to marketing, then that's no problem as well. But so in those cases, you've got to say, look, marketing is not a department in our company. Marketing is a function. It's a function that threads. It's like that red thread that goes throughout the whole organization. So we need marketing integrate it into customer service. We need to integrate it into sales. We need to integrate it into product development. So we need to put in those processes all throughout. And so part of the way that lean teams work is that there's someone from each function creating the product. There's someone from each function working on marketing the product. So you're working as a team, not as a department. So you're working as a team on a particular, let's say you're launching a brand new product. So you would have someone from sales, someone from marketing, someone from product development, all working as a team. So you're working on that whole life cycle together rather than it moving from department to department, right? You've got it done. Now we're going to figure out how to sell it. Now we're going to figure out how to support it, all of that sort of stuff. So that you've got to move away from that kind of a production line approach to a lean approach where you're working as an integrated team, working together to get a product from birth to success.
Yeah. So it sounds like what we're talking about is essentially, cross-functional teams, maybe
Yes.
5 to 10 people, 2 pizza teams in the words
Yeah.
of Jeff Bezos that can get stuff done quickly and don't need to rely on, communication by snail mail with other departments in the organization.
Exactly.
Excellent. So one other big sort of thing you talk about in the book is the tension between, I suppose, direct response marketing and brand marketing. So
Yeah.
brand being, billboards, television, above the line sort of marketing that you
Yeah.
can't really track, and direct response marketing being a lot more targeted and data driven.
Yeah.
Why is this so important? And is there still a place for above the line sort of brand marketing?
Yeah, there absolutely is. Some years ago, if you had asked me, I would have said, the whole branding stuff is a waste of time. We've got to go direct response marketing. I'm from, an engineering background, and so I'm driven a lot by data. I'm driven a lot by the numbers, and that's certainly an important part. But more and more, I can see the importance of brand. Someone, and by brand, what my definition of a brand is essentially the personality of a business. It's kind of like the goodwill that you've built up. So,
Yeah.
and think of it. I mean, if you think about it, quite apart from business, even if you just think about it as like whoever your best friend is, right? You guys have built a lot of goodwill up over the years, and so, when you ask your best friend to do something for you or whatever, it's like, yeah, for sure, of course, we built up this goodwill versus like a complete stranger. You walk up to a complete stranger and ask for a favor, and they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
What is this about?
Get
Why
away
are you
from me.
asking me? Right. So that's kind of how I think of brand. And so what we want to do is we want to build up that bank of goodwill over time, because that's going to make our direct response marketing efforts much more efficient and effective. If we're just going out to a cold audience and we've got a pitch or whatever, that can work, but it's going to be only a very, very small percentage of people who respond. And typically that's what direct response marketers rely on. They rely on that 0.5% response rate or 1% response rate or whatever it is. But that also imputes that we're now burning potentially 99% of people who see our stuff. So rather than that, I want to create advertising that is actually helpful to people, because a lot of what we do in advertising is basically make promises about how good someone's life will be once they buy our product or service. So rather than just making that promise, why don't we actually show them rather than just telling them? So can we create something that's actually going to be helpful to them, that's going to help build our brand, create a lot of goodwill, even with people who never buy from us? So that's an important component, because a lot of people feel like, hey, the only people we care about are the people who are going to buy from us. And that's very, very short-sighted, and that's not going to help you build that brand.
Yeah. So I guess we're talking about top of funnel sort of marketing in that respect, and leading with value of some kind. And I mean, a really simple example, which is probably now maybe a little bit dated, but it could just be, free ebooks to help you, with your marketing function, 100 sales tools to download or something to that degree, which is free value, and is helping build that sort of relationship with the customer, but you're not really promoting your product per se. Is that kind of what we're talking about there?
Yeah,
Or what are some
look,
other
I don't mind what
examples
it
of?
is, if it's an ebook or if it's
Yeah.
a video or if it's a book or whatever it is. The
Mhm.
the thing that it is matters a lot less than what it does, right? So will it genuinely help me get a good good result? Will it get me a result in advance? So, imagine you're in the fitness space, right? So when we think about all of the challenges that someone has in going and getting fit, so you might be thinking about, all right, what should I be eating? Like, what's a nutrition plan? Then what's an exercise plan? Then how do I know what kind of exercises to do? Should I do resistance training? Should I do cardio or whatever? So if you had you might have a tool, you might have a spreadsheet, you might have a guide on how they get started. What does your first 90 days look like in terms of turning your life around and getting fit? And it might be like, hey, look, if you're looking to lose a lot of weight, okay, let's put you on this cardio program, we'll get you started there. Or hey, I'm looking to put on muscle, okay, start with these three functional movements or whatever else. And so if you can help me get a result in advance, and I'm like, I work through your plan and now I've got some clarity, or now I've got some kind of result, I'm like, hey, I'm open to buying stuff or potentially working with you as a trainer or whatever else. And it doesn't have to be something that takes 90 days or whatever else. Even just getting clarity around what you should do, which could literally be like I said, with the one-page marketing plan, can take someone 20 to 30 minutes to get clarity around their marketing. And it just feels so good once you're now clear about what you need to do from a marketing perspective. And that feels like a massive win to a lot of people because they've never had a marketing plan ever in their lives. So similarly with whatever you've got, even if you can give someone clarity around what they should do next, that's massively valuable. So whether you're in fitness, whether you're in your B2B software, whether in whatever it is, you can help someone get some sort of micro result in advance, and that's going to create a lot of goodwill. And now even if they don't buy from you, there's still a lot of goodwill that they've created. They will refer other people to you. If they've got someone else in their life that's got that issue or whatever, they'll say, hey, you should go check this thing out. So that creates a lot of goodwill, so that even people who don't buy from you, they're going to value what you did. You're going to have created a valuable brand. But then there's also going to be a percentage of people who say, hey, that's great, I've got clarity or whatever, but can you take me by the hand and take me through the whole process? And that's where a lot of your paid programs come in. So it doesn't have to be something that's enormous, that's going to take a long time. It could literally be a transformation that takes 15, 20, 30 minutes. And now the person has better clarity than they had before. And now they're much more open to working with you because they can see some of the gaps that they've got. They can see some of the challenges that it's going to take to implement your program and things like that.
And I guess that's the difference between, being told about a benefit versus, really feeling a benefit or experiencing a benefit. And when you experience some form of benefit, whether it's, losing a few kilos based on some free workout plan or whatever the case is, you're much more likely to then believe that company's message and what they're selling and actually want to spend money on them.
Well, I see it in our own sales process. So we sell courses, we sell coaching, we sell consulting, and when a prospect gets on the phone with one of our sales people, nobody says, who is this? What is this about? Why should I buy from you or whatever? They're like, oh man, I read the book. It was really good. I did my one-page marketing plan or whatever. And now I need some help like implementing it, right? So you're getting prospects that are already open, they're already pre-interested, pre-motivated. You're not having to explain your value proposition. Now, obviously, there's some logistics in terms of going from where they are to where they want to be and fitting them with a program, and not everyone's necessarily a fit, but it's so much easier than like if you're just getting on a call or either cold calling, or you've got kind of cold traffic coming in where you've kind of got to explain from zero. So it's a massive difference.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's funny what you say there about the warm inbound leads. I put together an ebook recently on content marketing for venture capital firms. So very niche, very specific. And then the leads that I'm getting, the conversations, these are guys that have already, at least skim read that ebook, and they're like, hey man, love what you said about this, love what you said about that. It's very specific to our industry. So I'm not having to sell myself. It's more about, okay, well, where are you guys at right now? What challenges have you got? What are your objectives? And we get right into the nuts and bolts of things, as opposed to me selling, which admittedly I don't love selling. Well, not in the old school way where it's, cold calling and trying to
Yeah.
sell someone and being pushy and all the stuff that people negatively associate with selling, those whole car salesman thing. But if I'm leading with value, I've already demonstrated that value. We've built that relationship. You've got a problem, I can help you solve that problem. Then let's have a conversation and we essentially become partners, as opposed to this sort of adversarial salesman, prospective customer sort of role that you see in a car dealership, for
Yeah,
example.
totally. Totally. I mean,
So,
sales has a bad rap because of that, because of the pushy salespeople that we've all experienced, because of all the sort of spammy cold calling, all of that sort of stuff.
yeah,
But real sales is figuring out, hey, are we good? Are we a good fit for each other?
yeah,
It's diagnostic. It's like when you go to a doctor, you don't think of a doctor as a salesperson, but they really are. They're there to sell you either on a treatment program or on some drugs or whatever. But really, if you walked in to the doctor and they said, "All right, here's your prescription," and you're like, "Hang on, you didn't even ask me what was going on. You didn't diagnose me or anything," you'd be suspicious. But if they're like, all right, well, where does it hurt? Okay, what about when I twist it this way? How long has this been happening? How did this occur? When did you start noticing pain and all of that? And then they're diagnosing, and once they've diagnosed, then you're much more open to whatever program that they set for you, whether it's an exercise program or whether it's a drug or whether it's whatever else. You're like, all right, cool. So I've been diagnosed. Maybe there's some imaging being done or whatever. So I think of sales in exactly the same way. It's like, all right, tell me where does it hurt? And, when did this start? And what have you tried? What else have you been doing? And what's triggered you right now to look into fixing this? So really asking those diagnostic kind of questions so that your prospect really feels heard, and then we can take them to a better place with our product or service if we're a good fit.
yeah, for sure. And sales really is, essentially servitude and
Yeah.
asking questions and helping diagnose the problem. And going back to your earlier point, if you can help them diagnose the problem, you've already provided value,
Yeah,
and they're
totally.
far more likely to believe you. And even if they don't work with you, you've led with value, you've been of service.
Yeah.
Um, so I did mention a few moments ago the ebook that I created, which was very niche for a specific industry. And one thing you talk about in the book is finding your niche and really identifying customers where I think you say inch wide, mile deep.
Yeah.
How do businesses go about identifying an inch wide, mile deep customer, Alan?
Yeah. So by inch wide and mile deep, what I mean is it's a very specific kind of problem for a specific target market, but there are quite a few people in that situation. So again, let's use exercise as an analogy because everyone understands that. So let's say, for example, you specialize in really helping people who are powerlifting break through a plateau. So your perfect client is someone who's kind of just plateaued at whatever their strength level is for the last 2 to 3 months, and you've got a program that will help them break through that plateau. So now we can go to the market with a very, very specific message, because I mean, if you think about the world of fitness, of exercise, or whatever, it is so massively wide. You could be targeting people who want weight loss. You could be targeting people who are professional bodybuilders. You could be targeting people who just want to get a little bit fitter and put on muscle. You could be targeting people who are rehabbing from some kind of pain or some sort of dysfunction or whatever. You could be targeting people who want vegan, others who want keto, or whatever. It's just so wide. So to say you're in nutrition or fitness or whatever, it's just way too wide. Your message will get lost. You can't be all things to all people. But now if we know who our target market is, if we say, look, we're going after power lifters, so someone who's plateaued at their current level, so they've probably been doing it for a couple of years or at least. Now we can go with a very, very specific message. The other thing that's important about it is if you look at your Google search history, you'll notice that your searches are very, very specific. You're not just typing in fitness. You're not just typing in nutrition. you're typing a specific problem that you've got. So in this case, if I'm a power lifter and I've plateaued, I might be typing into Google how to break through a plateau for power lifters, right? And then if I come across your content, well, then that's going to be something super attractive to me. That might be a YouTube video, that might be a guide, that might be an app, whatever it is. So it's going to be much, much easier to attract your ideal target market. And then we find that, you know, if one person's got that problem, it's likely quite a few people have got that problem. So, so we want to be super specific about the problem that we solve and who we solve it for, and really go down that rabbit hole. And then, if we've got a solution for that problem, well, we can deploy that over and over like a machine. Whereas if we say, hey, we're all things for all people, you know, today you might be working on yoga with somebody, next week you might be working with somebody on keto, another person you might be wanting to lose weight, then the other person might be wanting to figure out how to do good form or whatever. And so your days are you're going to be doing a lot of custom original work, which is very, very expensive, very difficult. You're going to have a huge knowledge base, and you're going to have to do a lot of custom work. Whereas if you've got one solution for one specific target market, you can just redeploy that over and over and over, and that's going to enable you to scale. So you're going to be able to sell tons of those programs and do it in a very, very repeatable way. A big problem a lot of entrepreneurs have in removing themselves from their business, for example, hiring a CEO or stepping out of the business, is it just crumbles because they need to be across everything, because they're the only ones who've got knowledge across all of these areas. Yeah. Whereas if you're doing something very simple and repeatable and something that you can redeploy over and over and over, that's very, very easy to systemize.
Yeah. And I guess to build upon that point of identifying your ideal target market, one thing you also touch on in the book is premium customers.
Yeah.
And this really resonates with me, and it's something that I've espoused over the years. And, you know, businesses I've built, we've always gone for larger, you know, whether they're venture-backed startups that are Series A or beyond, or big corporates, as opposed to the individual freelancer. The individual freelancer might be able to spend $500 on a workshop. The large corporate might be able to spend 20 or 30 grand, and you're dealing with one person instead of having to sell to an army of 20 or 30 individual freelancers. So why is this so important for people to get right up front, Allan, versus think about this on the tail end of their marketing, like identifying the premium customer in their sort of niche?
Yeah, where a lot of people kind of position themselves as kind of in that messy middle, where we're not the most expensive, we're not the cheapest, we're kind of in that middle. And that's where the most competition is. That's where everybody's trying to kill everybody else. At the low end, there's usually one or two very dominant players. Like if I think about like a Costco or Walmart, they've usually got some massive kind of cost advantage because of volume buying power or technology or something like that. So it's usually very, very difficult to compete at the low end. Usually there's one or two very, very dominant players. So unless you have some massive cost advantage or volume advantage or something that's going to enable you to really undercut the low end of the market, then I suggest you don't play there. The middle is where everybody is. Everybody's trying to compete with each other, trying to kill each other. That's the most competitive. And then at the high end, not that it's not competitive or whatever, but like that's where you're working with premium clients, people who really value what you do, people who've got money, people who are willing to pay for what you've got. So, and that's where you can have some of the biggest wins in moving from that messy middle to premium positioning, where you really deliver an amazing experience, and you can afford to do that, because in the middle you usually can't afford to deliver a great experience. You're usually scrimping and saving to kind of acquire a customer, and then when you acquire them, they're not super profitable, so you can't really spend much on wowing them and delivering a great experience. So with premium, and premium customers know this. True premium customers know that they've got to be charged a lot, because they know it costs a lot to deliver an amazing experience. They know it costs a lot to support them and all of that. So they're customers that are wonderful to deal with. They pay you a lot for what you do. They're and often it's easier or the same converting a high-end premium customer as it is a low-end or a mid-tier
Yeah.
customer. They're customers generally that complain the least, pay the most, easiest to deal with. Your team loves working with them. So often I say, look, double down on some of your premium market segment, the customers that you love working with. Because if we sorted all of your customers in a spreadsheet from best to worst, you'll find some, if you concentrated more on those premium customers and took all the massive resources that you spend on appeasing kind of the middle and bottom customers and focus that on those top level customers, you would have a massively different business. You could most businesses can double and triple their revenue just by doing that strategy.
Yeah, yeah. And you probably spend a lot less time servicing the premium customers in
Yeah.
some respects too. They're going to be less painful than a lot of the smaller customers. And if the premium customer is worth, say, 5 times more than a smaller customer, then, like you said, the margins are going to be much bigger. So if I have 3 premium customers as opposed to 10 small ones, I'm probably going to be spending a lot less time, but also making a lot more money, which I can then reinvest that time and money into growing the business even further or
Yeah.
providing an exceptional experience for these premium customers.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Exactly. So we want to deliver an amazing experience. We want them to be raving fans, to refer other people who are like them. And
mhm.
so we're never going to be able to do that if we're scrimping and saving and working on a very low margin, and that's all going to be difficult or impossible to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I think it was Ben Horowitz from A16Z who answered Tim Ferriss's question, what would you put on a billboard on a busy freeway in Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
And Ben basically said 2 words, raise prices. That
Mm,
was his message to the startups of Silicon Valley,
love
who
it.
oftentimes maybe, I mean, do you think there's perhaps something to the idea that the reason why so many people are reluctant to raise prices is perhaps because they don't really believe in what they're selling to some
Yeah.
degree and the value they're providing.
True, and they may be right. I mean,
Mm.
if you've got a crappy product, and you just raise prices, well, that's now you've got a crappy product that's overpriced, right?
Yeah.
So, it needs to deliver the value, and most businesses over deliver on value, and they usually have an excellent product or an excellent service, and they're not charging enough for it. In which case, yes, it's just a matter of raising prices. But if you don't believe in your product, and if that's justified, that you really don't have a great product, and you
Mm.
really can't raise your prices to a level where people will pay that because they're just not getting the value. Well, then, yeah, you do have to relook at the product, relook at the service. But I don't think that's most people's problem. Most people deliver excellent products, excellent services, and they're just not charging enough. In which case, yeah, you do need to look at when was the last time you raised prices? What would the market reasonably pay? Who's in your marketplace that's charging a lot more and not really delivering the level of value that you do? So having a good honest look at both your product, your service, your market, and then having a look, if we charge this level of price, what could we deliver? What kind of service could we do? Because now, if you've got a lot more margin to play with, you can look at your customer experience a lot more deeply and deliver something that might be costly to deliver.
Mm. And I guess it also ties into value-based pricing, which is something you also touch on in the book. A
Yeah.
lot of people will use cost plus pricing.
Yes.
Here are our costs. Here's our ideal profit. Let's just
Yeah.
charge a little bit of a markup on that,
Yeah.
as opposed to how much value are we actually creating for this customer,
Yeah.
and based on that, how much do we think they'd be willing to pay to
Yeah.
extract that value?
And that's a lot of the reason why we're looking for that ideal customer, because the ideal customer values what you do a lot. Whereas you might deliver the exact same thing to somebody else and they don't really value it. They're like, I wouldn't pay for that. Or,
Mm.
so we're looking for that ideal customer who will really pay for what you've got. And for them to do that, they've really got to value what you do.
Yeah, yeah. And do you think on the other side of that spectrum, we we're talking about, the low cost end with Costco and how certain types of, say, novel infrastructure or technology can help you deliver a product for a cheaper price, but do it at scale? It seems like right now in the current market, at least in the short term, maybe over the next year or two, there might be opportunities for like early adopters when it comes to AI to
Sure.
just embed AI across their entire value
True.
chain, bring down their cost to serve, and be able to take products to market for way less than their competitors.
True.
Everyone will probably catch up in 2 or 3 years, but
Yeah.
right now, I think that's an opportunity.
Yeah. Look, if you have an opportunity somehow to um, uh, create a big cost advantage over your competitors, either through technology or through exclusive distribution or through whatever. There are a number of ways that you can possibly do that. Absolutely. So I don't mind playing at an extreme end, at extreme high, extreme low. Both are good. Extreme low comes with dangers because there's usually some big mega player in there who's got most of the advantage because of their size, because of their volume or whatever. But size and volume are not always the only advantage you can have at the to cost at the low end. But yeah, absolutely. If you've got some sort of market advantage, then by all means use that and grab market share while you can.
Yeah, for sure, man. And with respect to gaining market advantages through technology, through tools. In the book, you have a whole section dedicated to effective tools and tactics,
Yeah.
which you break out across, say, marketing, sales, and operations.
Yeah.
At a high level, Alan, like what are some things that leaders need to be thinking about in terms of tools to help them, 10x is a bit of a generic word, but to
Yeah.
10x their marketing.
Yeah. So we want to look at what tools can help us get a massive advantage. So a key part of lean marketing is figuring out leverage points in terms
Mm,
of your market and in terms of your business. So tools are one of those things that can be a massive leverage point. So think about farming a couple of 100 years ago. Used to be massively labor intensive. You used to
yeah.
need heaps of people to farm. Then technology comes in, things like tractors and combine harvesters and things like that. Now we only need a fraction of the people to do that. So what's that done? That's lowered food prices. It means a lot more people can get access to food and all of that. So similarly, there are tools that will help you, whether it's 10x or some get some multiple of an advantage in your business. So being on the lookout and being aware of it, and you mentioned AI, that's coming and really disrupting a lot of industries, and you want to be the one who's doing the disrupting rather than the one who's disrupted, right? So you may right now not be using it, but there are in most industries there are advantages to be gained by either implementing AI or some other technologies, CRM systems, automation. All of those sorts of things can massively reduce the cost of doing business and help you increase the level of service that you create, help you increase the amount of volume that you can service with the same amount of labor.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would be certainly thinking about in my business, and we certainly are. We're investing in that, and there's definitely advantages to be gained. And even if it's an advantage, not in terms of cost, but in terms of the level of service that you can deliver or how quickly you can deliver. These are all big advantages that you can really leverage.
Yeah, absolutely. And marketing automation tools have been around for a long time, and now we're seeing a lot more
Yeah.
AI tools. But even something as simple as a Zapier to
Yeah.
get to automate what were previously manual processes
Yeah.
across your organization. And if you're a large organization, like the cost of those processes manually being performed on a day-to-day basis can actually be quite high. And if you can
Yeah.
automate that, sure, it saves costs, but it frees people up to invest their mind and their
Yeah.
abilities on more creative pursuits and create more value for the organization and its customers. So, two other sort of, you call them force multipliers in the book. So, tools is essentially one of them,
Yeah.
but the other two are assets and processes.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to just elaborate on those two, Alan.
So assets are anything that essentially, so using Robert Kiyosaki's definition, is things that put money in your pocket. So if I
Mhm.
own property, I can derive rental income. If I own stocks, I can derive dividend income. So similarly, there are marketing assets that you can either build or buy or create that will generate lead flow, that will generate revenue, that will generate clients. So for example, you and I right now are talking because of a marketing asset I've got in my business, which is my books. And
Mhm.
every single day, we get a lot of, I get invited to speak somewhere. I get invited on podcasts. Someone wants to join one of our programs. This is all because of an asset that I've got out in the marketplace. Now, in the absence of that asset, I would have to be doing a lot of labor. I would have to be doing a lot of outreach, a lot of cold calling, a lot of all of that. And like we talked about earlier, that's a lot less effective than someone coming inbound saying, "Hey, I read your book. Would you be on our podcast?" Or, "Hey, I read your book. Would you come speak at our conference?" Or, "Hey, I read your book. I'd love to join one of your programs," or whatever else. So marketing assets just generate a lot of goodwill, a lot of lead flow, a lot of revenue over time. So we want to build marketing assets that will attract the right target market. It will attract the right people to us. So that's assets. That creates a lot. That's a big leverage point in a marketing infrastructure. Then there are processes. So processes are the things that you and your team do daily, weekly, monthly. So whether, and it tends to be kind of that boring stuff that most entrepreneurs just won't do. So it's sending that, if you figure out in your marketing plan that it's, hey, it's a good idea for us to send out an email newsletter twice a week, well, it's getting that done. If you decide it's a good idea to post on Instagram every day, well, it's getting that done. So getting your marketing processes done, the daily, weekly kind of grind, kind of driving that bus every day, that they're your marketing processes. And 9 times out of 10, the entrepreneur, the business owner, is not the right person to drive that. You need that marketing coordinator, that marketing person in your business who's going to, wake up every morning and write, okay, what are we going to do from a marketing perspective today? And most entrepreneurs tend to be not that personality. First of all, they're usually really busy. They're putting out fires. They're dealing with this, that, and the other, but they're also very easily distracted and generally like to move on to the next exciting thing that's happening in their business or in their industry or whatever else. And I'm certainly like that. Like if it was left up to me, we'd probably get nothing done as a business as well. So I need those people who are integrators in their business, who are going to write the copy, do the email marketing, set up the systems, do all of that sort of stuff so that I can do what I do best and work in my own genius zone.
Yeah, and I guess once organization has those processes in place, it's also about reflecting and reviewing and perhaps taking friction out of
Yep.
those processes. I mean, I've worked with a lot of large organizations, and oftentimes they have marketing processes in place, but there's so much friction and there's
Yep.
so much sort of outsourcing of accountability, and meetings need to happen, and unnecessary reporting and all this sort of red tape that people need to cut through to just deliver on a marketing campaign versus
Yep.
some of that stuff's valuable. Processes that serve a purpose up to a certain degree are great, but once they become once they become overwhelming to the point where they actually stop work from getting done, that's kind of counterproductive.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, a process is there to serve you. You're not there to serve the process. So
Yeah.
that's an important distinction, and that's a distinction that's lost in a lot of businesses.
Yeah, for sure. And one other thing I wanted to touch on in the time we have left is this idea that what are you really selling? Or at least
Mm,
question, what are you really selling? And
yeah.
I think that kind of ties in a little bit with Clayton Christensen's concept of, jobs to be done.
Yeah.
What job is your product helping serve for a customer? And taking the fitness example further, like if I run a gym, it's easy for me to say, well, my competitors are other gyms, but essentially I might just be selling confidence, and I could give someone confidence through a new haircut. So I'm competing with barbershops, or
That's it.
a new outfit. I'm competing with malls and shopping centers and things of that sort. And you essentially identify the sort of 7 key areas that people, well, 7 key sort of, is it commodities that
Yep.
people are essentially selling? I'd love for you to just elaborate a little bit on that and why this is so important, because I see 90% of entrepreneurs that I talk to, who are your competitors? They either say we don't have any, or
Yep.
they just really sort of don't identify their competitors all that well.
Yeah. So it's a really good question. So what are you really selling? So let's say, for example, you sell insurance. You're like, okay, I sell insurance. Okay, well, and often it comes down to, in lean, there's a process called the 5 whys, and
Mm.
there's nothing magical about 5, but asking why multiple times gets a person really thinking. So you might ask, well, why are you buying insurance? Well, in case my house burns down. Okay. Well, why are you concerned about your house burning down? Well, I live in a in a bushfire area. Okay, so, and as you keep probing, generally comes down to one of seven things in my experience. It's either they want money and wealth, they want time and convenience, they want sex and mating, they want status, fame, approval, or they want safety, peace of mind, they want leisure and entertainment and play, or they want freedom. So usually it's one of those seven things. For example, in the example of selling insurance, what someone really is buying is peace of mind, right? They're not buying insurance, they're not buying bushfire protection, they're not buying all of that. They're really buying peace of mind. If the worst happened, we'd be okay. So that it's really, really important to think about what is someone really buying. And often it's multidimensional. It's usually not just one thing. For example, if you think about a car, well, yeah, a car gives us freedom. It lets us get places and do stuff and all of that. But also, not everybody's buying just the cheapest car that gets us from A to B. So there's definitely a status component. Someone buying a Rolls Royce and a Toyota, they're functionally equivalent. They'll both get you places. They'll both give you that freedom. They're both pretty reliable. So, but one comes with a lot more status, right? You get a lot of these things are multi-dimensional drivers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we'll probably wrap up on a bit of a hypothetical, Alan. So
Sure.
you might have seen the deepfake that circulated a couple of weeks ago. I think it was of Andrew Huberman, and he was endorsing a supplement of some kind. Only it wasn't Andrew Huberman; it was a deepfake.
Sure.
Now, this technology, of course, over the next year or two, is only going to get exponentially better to the point where no doubt the internet's just going to be flooded with deepfakes of celebrities endorsing sort of products. And
Yeah.
essentially, it's going to get to a place where I feel like we're just going to filter out so many marketing messages because the internet's just awash with AI generated, not just deepfakes, but ads and social media posts and
Yeah.
bots and all this sort of stuff. So it feels like the role of the marketer or being good at marketing is only going to get like exponentially more difficult as this stuff starts to proliferate. So, I mean, just love to know, your thoughts on where we're going with respect to that. I know it's a bit of a hypothetical, nothing in your book, but just a
Yeah, no,
curious
no,
case
you're
that
right.
I'd love to double click on.
Yeah, well, I have thought about that. I think it's going to get to the stage where there'll be some sort of signing of videos or content that will prove that it's authentic, like kind of like SSL certificates, like
Mm,
they're that those little lock, green lock that when you
yeah.
go to a website it says, hey, this is the authentic website and it hasn't been tampered with. That really enabled a lot of e-commerce, because prior to that people were worried, am I going to lose my credit card details, am I going to get scammed? And even though that's not necessarily a guarantee of anything, that definitely provides something. So I think smartphone manufacturers and things like that will start signing videos saying, yes, this was genuinely shot on an iPhone, or genuinely shot, or this is genuinely an unedited video,
Yeah.
so that then you can be confident that or more confident that this is not a deep fake. So I think we'll get to the stage where you're watching a YouTube video and it's either got the little green padlock or it doesn't, and
Mhm.
in which case you might say, hey, this is really an authentic video, versus, hey, it's not. So
Perfect.
that's my
Yeah.
view. I don't know if we'll get to that or whatever, but that I think that's one solution to it. And then also AI works both ways. It can work in both the generation of that stuff, but also the detection of that stuff. So AI is good at picking up stuff that's generated by AI as well. So again, there can be a flag around, hey, we suspect this is AI generated content.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Hopefully something of that ilk eventuates. But Alan, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. If people want to learn more, of course, they can head over to leanmarketing.com. There's links to all of your books there, programs, free resources, the one-page marketing plan, canvas. You can
Yeah.
get all that good stuff there. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up today?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, my books are The One Page Marketing Plan and Lean Marketing. Both are very popular on Audible, so you can listen to them as audiobooks. So yeah, I love people to grab the canvas, connect with us at Lean Marketing, and take your marketing to the next level.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so